Close your eyes and imagine this. It's 10:30 at night. You hear a knock on your door. You call out, "Who's there?" Silence. You peek through the window and see shadowy figures running away from your house. Your heart pounds. Are you being robbed? Stalked? Targeted? You call the police. You spend the night at your sister's house, terrified. The next morning you go to the hospital with chest pain and anxiety. You genuinely believe you were the victim of something sinister. Then you discover the truth. Those shadowy figures were teenage girls. And what they left on your doorstep that scared you so badly? Homemade cookies, free cookies, with a note that said, "Have a great night." Now here's the question that will determine your entire fate. Do you laugh it off, or do you sue them? Wanita Renea Young chose to sue, and that decision didn't just ruin the teenagers' lives, it destroyed her own in ways she never could have imagined. This is the true story of the most hated woman in America, all because of chocolate chip cookies. And every twist in this story is more shocking than the last. Let me take you back to Durango, Colorado in the summer of 2004. It's a small, quiet mountain town where everyone knows everyone. The kind of place where people still leave their doors unlocked and neighbors look out for each other. Crime is rare. Trust is high. It's the kind of town where nothing ever really happens. Until the night of July 31st, 2004, when everything changed because of a simple act of kindness. Taylor Ostergaard, 17, and Lindsey Zellitti, 18, were best friends and inseparable. They were good kids, honor students, involved in church, never been in trouble. On this particular Saturday night, there was a dance at their school that most of their friends were attending. But Taylor and Lindsey decided to skip it. Not because they were antisocial or troublemakers, but because they wanted to do something different, something meaningful. They'd been talking about performing random acts of kindness, inspired by stories they'd heard about people brightening strangers' days with unexpected gestures. So they came up with a plan. They would bake homemade cookies and secretly deliver them to neighbors in the middle of the night as a surprise. They spent hours in Taylor's kitchen, baking batch after batch of chocolate chip cookies and sugar cookies. They cut out paper hearts and wrote cheerful messages. "Have a great night. Love the T&L Club." They signed it with just their initials because the whole point was anonymity. They didn't want recognition. They just wanted to spread joy. Around 9 p.m., armed with plates of cookies wrapped in plastic wrap and tied with ribbons, the two girls set out into their neighborhood. Their rules were simple. Only deliver to houses where the lights were still on, meaning people were awake. Knock softly, leave the cookies on the doorstep, and run away before anyone could see them. It was like a reverse trick-or-treating, giving instead of receiving. For the first hour, everything went perfectly. They'd knocked on about 9 houses. Some people came to the door and discovered the cookies with delight. Others found them the next morning. The girls giggled as they ran from house to house, feeling like they were spreading happiness throughout their community. Then they knocked on door number 10, the home of Wanita Renea Young. And everything went horribly, catastrophically wrong. It was 10:30 p.m. when Taylor and Lindsey approached Wanita Young's house. The lights were on. They followed their usual routine. Knock on the door, set down the cookies, run back to the car. But this time was different. When they knocked, Wanita Young, a 49-year-old woman who lived with her husband, called out from inside, "Who's there?" The girls, committed to keeping their gift anonymous, didn't answer. They just giggled, left the cookies, and ran back to their car. Inside the house, Wanita Young was now alarmed. She'd heard the knock. She'd called out. No answer. She went to the window and saw shadowy figures running away from her house. Her heart started racing. Were these burglars casing her home? Gang members marking her house? Drug dealers leaving some kind of threat? Wanita had recently had anxiety issues and had been dealing with stress. The unexplained knock and mysterious figures running away triggered a panic response. She called 911 immediately, her voice shaking as she reported suspicious activity at her home. The La Plata County Sheriff's Office responded quickly. Deputies arrived, searched the area, checked Wanita's porch, and found nothing threatening, just a plate of cookies with a friendly note. The deputies explained to Wanita that it appeared to be a harmless prank or gesture, probably kids doing something nice. Nothing to worry about. They left. But Wanita Young wasn't convinced. She was so shaken that she couldn't stay in her own home that night. She packed a bag and went to stay at her sister's house, convinced that she'd been targeted for something sinister. The next morning, still anxious and experiencing chest pains, Wanita went to Mercy Medical Center. She was treated for an anxiety attack. The hospital visit cost $900. Now, in most stories, this would be the end, a misunderstanding, an unfortunate overreaction. Maybe some embarrassment all around, but ultimately just one of those things. But Wanita Young wasn't ready to let it go. When the families of Taylor and Lindsey found out what happened, that their daughter's well-intentioned cookie delivery had terrified a neighbor, they were mortified. This was not what the girls had intended at all. They'd been trying to spread kindness, not fear. Taylor's mother immediately called Wanita Young to apologize profusely. She explained that her daughter and her friend had simply been doing a nice gesture, that they were good kids who meant no harm, and that they were devastated to learn they'd frightened anyone. The families offered to pay Wanita's medical bills, all $900. They would cover everything, no questions asked, if it would make things right. It was a reasonable offer. More than reasonable, it was generous. The girls hadn't done anything illegal. They hadn't damaged property. They hadn't intended any harm. But their families were willing to take responsibility anyway, just to resolve the situation peacefully. Wanita Young refused the offer. She wanted more than money. She wanted, what exactly? An apology? She'd received that. Justice? For what crime? Acknowledgement of her suffering? She had that too. No, Wanita Young wanted to make an example of these girls. She wanted them to understand the consequences of their actions. She wanted everyone to know that you can't just go around knocking on doors at night, even with good intentions. So in August 2004, Wanita Renea Young filed a lawsuit in La Plata County Small Claims Court against Taylor Ostergaard and Lindsey Zellitti. She sued them for $900 in medical expenses plus additional damages for emotional distress. She was taking teenage girls to court over cookies. The case went to trial in February 2005. By this point, the story had already started making local news. People in Durango couldn't believe it. Everyone knew the girls, everyone knew they were good kids, and everyone thought the lawsuit was ridiculous. But Wanita Young was determined. In court, she testified about her terror that night, her sleeplessness, her anxiety, her hospital visit. She described the shadowy figures running away, the mysterious knock, the feeling of being violated in her own home. Her lawyer argued that regardless of intent, the girls' actions had caused measurable harm. Wanita had medical bills. Those bills were a direct result of what happened that night. Therefore, the girls were responsible. Taylor and Lindsey testified, barely holding back tears. They explained that they were just trying to do something nice. They showed the court photos of the cookies, the heart-shaped notes, the cheerful messages. They apologized again and again, explaining they never meant to frighten anyone. Their family's lawyer argued that this was a massive overreaction to what was clearly a harmless gesture, that the girls had committed no crime, that this lawsuit was punishing kindness. The judge, John Moran, faced a difficult decision. On one hand, the girls clearly meant no harm. On the other hand, Wanita Young did incur real medical expenses as a result of their actions, however unintentional. Judge Moran ruled in favor of Wanita Young. He awarded her $900 in medical costs plus $1 in punitive damages for a total of $901. Wanita Young had won her lawsuit. She'd gotten her money. She'd proven her point. She probably felt vindicated, justified, like justice had been served. She had no idea that winning this lawsuit was the biggest mistake of her life. Here's where this story takes its first major twist. When the verdict was announced, The local Durango newspaper covered it as a quirky human interest story. Woman wins lawsuit over cookie delivery. It was meant to be a small local story that might get a chuckle and then be forgotten. But in 2005, the internet was becoming a powerful force. Blogs were emerging. News aggregation sites were gaining traction. Stories could go viral before going viral was even a common phrase. And the story of the woman who sued teenagers over cookies? It exploded. Within 48 hours, the story had been picked up by every major news outlet in America. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, The Today Show, Good Morning America. Everyone wanted to cover the cookie lawsuit. It became a national sensation. But here's the twist that Wanita Young never saw coming. She wasn't the hero of this story. She was the villain. The American public was outraged, not at the teenagers, but at Wanita Young. How dare she sue kids for trying to do something nice? How dare she punish kindness? How dare she take them to court over an innocent gesture? The comments sections exploded with fury. This woman is everything wrong with America. Frivolous lawsuits like this should be illegal. Those poor girls were just trying to be kind. I hope she's proud of herself for bullying children. Then came the phone calls, and the letters, and the emails. The Young family's phone started ringing off the hook. Some callers were just expressing disappointment. Others were viciously cruel. Some made threats, death threats. The hate mail poured in by the dozens, then hundreds. People from all over the country sent letters calling Wanita every name imaginable, telling her she was a disgrace, that she should be ashamed, that karma would get her. Wanita Young, who thought she'd won justice, was now being destroyed by public opinion. But wait, it gets worse. Here comes plot twist number 2, and this one is wild. A Denver radio station, KOA 850 AM, heard about the case and decided to get involved. The hosts were furious about the verdict and wanted to help the girls. They launched a campaign called Cookie Kindness and asked listeners to donate money to pay the $901 judgment so the girls and their families wouldn't have to. The response was overwhelming. In less than 24 hours, the radio station raised over $1,500, far more than the $901 needed. The extra money? They gave it to the girls to help cover their own expenses and emotional trauma from being sued. But the radio station didn't stop there. They invited Taylor and Lindsey onto their show. The girls appeared and told their story with grace and humility. They didn't attack Wanita Young. They didn't express anger. They simply said they'd learned a valuable lesson about how good intentions can be misunderstood, and they hoped people would continue to be kind to one another despite this situation. America fell in love with Taylor and Lindsey. They became national heroes, symbols of kindness in a cynical world, living proof that young people still cared about doing good. Meanwhile, Wanita Young became a national pariah. Mrs. Fields Cookies, the national cookie company, heard about the story and created a special kindness cookie in honor of Taylor and Lindsey. A portion of the sales went to charity. The girls were flown to Los Angeles to appear on television shows. They were featured in magazines. They received letters of support from all over the world. Wanita Young received more death threats. She gave an interview to the Durango Herald, trying to defend herself. In the interview, she said, "Our home is like a funeral parlor. They've robbed us of our laughter. My spirit, my soul, is damaged." The irony was completely lost on her. She'd sued teenagers for emotional distress, and now she was claiming to be the real victim of emotional distress. The public reaction to her interview was even more savage than before. But here's plot twist number 3, and this is where things get truly bizarre. Wanita's husband, Herb Young, apparently couldn't handle the negative attention his family was receiving. Instead of lying low and letting the storm pass, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Herb Young started calling the families of Taylor and Lindsey. According to reports, he made multiple harassing phone calls, allegedly confronting them about the media attention and the public backlash. The father of one of the girls had enough. He filed for and was granted a restraining order against Herb Young, barring him from contacting their family or coming near their home. So now, not only had Wanita Young sued teenagers over cookies and lost the court of public opinion, but her husband was legally barred from going near the families because of harassment. The Youngs had gone from victims of a scary nighttime disturbance to the most hated family in Colorado to people with restraining orders against them, all because of cookies. The aftermath of this case is both fascinating and tragic. Taylor Ostergaard and Lindsey Zellitti became advocates for kindness. They spoke at schools and community events about the importance of continuing to do good, even when it doesn't always go as planned. They turned a humiliating experience into a platform for positive change. Wanita and Herb Young largely disappeared from public life. They gave no more interviews. They kept their heads down. According to later reports, Wanita acknowledged that the whole situation had spiraled far beyond what she'd ever intended, but she never quite admitted that suing the girls had been wrong. The case became a textbook example in law schools across America, not of how justice works, but of how winning in court doesn't always mean winning in life. Students study it as a cautionary tale about frivolous lawsuits, about the importance of proportional response, and about how the court of public opinion can be far harsher than any legal judgment. But here's the final, most profound twist of this entire story. Wanita Young got exactly what she wanted. She sued the girls, she won in court, she got her $901. She proved that their actions, however well-intentioned, had caused her measurable harm. The legal system validated her complaint, and it destroyed her life. She won the battle and lost the war. She got justice and lost everything else: her reputation, her peace of mind, her privacy, her dignity. She became infamous for all the wrong reasons. She became a cautionary tale, a punchline, a symbol of everything people hate about lawsuit culture in America. The end. Make sure to subscribe for more videos.